Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I am Gregory McBurney. Let's take a look at the headlines. Bail amendment bill needed to strengthen protection of children according to task force recommendation. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessor pays tribute to late Queen's Counsel Carl Hudson Phillips. And Scarborough to benefit from a boost in law enforcement officers. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessor, speaking at the weekly post-cabinet media briefing, remembered Mr. Carl Hudson Phillips QC as an extraordinary citizen who offered his services to Trinidad and Tobago.
He served the state well for several years, and although he was part of the coalition of parties which formed the government in 1986, he never offered himself for political office. And even on our darkest days following the 1990 attempted coup, Mr. Hudson Phillips was appointed lead counsel for the prosecution against the insurrectionists. Mr. Hudson Phillips always offered timely advice to the legal profession, and indeed on many occasions he offered advice to the government in his capacity as a lawyer.
Mrs. Persad-Bissessor, a senior counsel herself, also recalled her personal interactions with the man who she described as an inspiration to many others in the law profession.
At age 80, he was still active in the law, offered advice to many of the young lawyers. Myself, when I graduated, I remember meeting with the very distinguished Queen's Counsel Carl Hudson Phillips, and I was very inspired by my meeting with him. And I see several lawyers in the room who are acknowledging the great value and the asset that was Carl Hudson Phillips. He was associated with many young lawyers in his 53 years at the bar.
In other news, government is banking on the support of the independent senators to pass the Bail Amendment Bill 2013, which will ensure that repeat offenders are jailed with no bail, says Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessor.
The Prime Minister added that while the Child Protection Task Force recommended that legislation pertaining to the protection of children not yet be proclaimed until recommended measures are put into place, the clauses with respect to offences against children should be brought forward so the perpetrators can be caught under the move for no bail.
It is important to note that these acts should not be proclaimed until these issues are addressed. I was so advised by the task force. The proclamation or partial proclamation of the Children's Community Residences, Foster Homes and Nurseries Act 2000 mandates the Children's Authority to license community residences. This process must be facilitated through subsidiary legislation. As such, the foster care regulations are being drafted and are expected to be completed by February of this year.
The bill, which was introduced by Attorney General Annan Ramlogan SC on November 13, 2013, was finally passed in the House of Representatives last Saturday after a lengthy sitting. The bill, which required a special majority in order to be passed, received the full support of all 27 members of Parliament, MPs from the government benches. It needed 26 votes to pass. Speaking at the post-cabinet news conference at the office of the Prime Minister, St. Clair, Mrs. Persad-Bissessor said that under the legislation, once an offender gets 2 strikes, there is no bail.
We have taken to Parliament, and we will be in the Senate on Tuesday of next week, with the Bail Amendment Bill. We are calling here 2 strikes and you're out, which is to say we've included in the serious offences where no bail is given on your second count when you're charged. If you've been convicted in the past 10 years of a similar offence or any of those offences, then if you're charged again, that you will be denied bail for 120 days. And if your trial has not started, you can apply to a judge in chambers for the bail. But it means that a repeat offender is in effect going to be locked up should they recommit.
She said the offences against children should be brought forward so these perpetrators can also be caught under the no bail law.
As I said to you before, we need the support of the honourable independent senators in the Senate. The opposition has made it very clear they will not support the Bail Amendment Bill. We were able to pass it in the House with the government's majority. We look forward to the support of the independent senators in the Senate so that we can get the repeat offenders behind bars
Chairman of the Child Protection Task Force, Diana Mahabir-Wyatt, and her team presented a copy of their report to the Prime Minister yesterday. Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar said this was a symbolic presentation as the task force had sent the report to her office last year before Christmas. The recommendations of the report, the Prime Minister says, were accepted by Cabinet. She said the three of the major areas of priority in the report were the establishment of the assessment centres, the staffing of the Children's Authority, and the licensing of the community residents.
I'm now advised that the authority identified that we needed these assessment centres to make your work, to improve your working. I am told by Minister that the authority will open its first assessment centre at the Children's Hospital at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex. A MOU was signed with the North Central Regional Health Authority early this year. Tenders to customize this space were sent out and evaluated. A contract was awarded to commence work in this month of January.
Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar said steps have already been taken to address all these areas and the recommendations made by the task force will be fulfilled. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
An export education committee has been established. More on this after the break. Stay with us. The education sector would soon be ready for export along with a number of other service sectors. This following the establishment of the TTCSI Educations to Export Committee and the draft National Strategy for Export of Education Services.
The services sector contributed 51% of our GDP in 2012. The contribution of the services sector was the largest of any in 2012, with energy contributing some 42% of GDP. So the economic significance of the services sector is even more profound in terms of its ability to provide jobs. I bet you also didn't know that 86% of our labor force is employed in the services sector.
The establishment of the Trinidad and Tobago Coalition of Services Industries Education Export Committee took place on Wednesday at the Normandy Hotel, Port of Spain. The TTCSI has been spearheading a national draft export strategy in education services funded by the Commonwealth Secretariat to increase services exports from Trinidad and Tobago. This is part of a larger study, which includes three other areas: medical tourism, professional, and yachting services. 4 sectorial action plans were developed for these sectors following a review and update of the original version of the marketing plan for export of professional services developed in 2005. To further advance the initiative, at Wednesday's conference, the TTCSI sought to establish a working group or committee that will focus on the export of education services, determine an action plan for the export committees, and assign roles and responsibilities. In delivering the feature address, Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Senator the Honourable Fazal Karim, threw his support behind the TTCSI. In outlining a number of initiatives under his ministry, he challenged the national umbrella body, which brings together all services sector organizations and associations, to aggressively pursue the export of education services.
With the Accreditation Council, we are ensuring that we're going to deliver shortly to the national community the National Credit and Qualifications Framework. Too often learning becomes terminal because you can't articulate to higher levels of learning. You want to know where you can go next. And all of these systems, together with the regional accreditation mechanism, will be based and fundamentally so, platformed on rigid quality assurance procedures and processes. That is how you're going to ensure the integrity. That is how you're going to build confidence. That is how you're going to build the international brand that Mr. Tiwari is talking about. Brand TNT for education and training and knowledge.
Following the feature address, those in attendance engaged in an interactive session to review the action plan, and the committee was established. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
There is an increase in police officers patrolling the streets of Scarborough and environs, both by foot and in vehicles, with some even directing traffic more often now than in previous months. But just how do citizens feel about the increased vigilance, specifically in the island's capital, Scarborough?
Citizens in Tobago, more so the Scarborough area, share their feelings regarding the increase in the number of officers patrolling Scarborough.
Good initiative. We hope that like in the night, when you have less business, then you must have police in the town every night. You mustn't have a period of time where there is no police, especially the town area.
But even with all the police in town, he believes crime will still occur, but maybe less frequently. He went further to state that the officers should not be restricted to guarding Scarborough only.
Even on the highway, you must have a police presence all the time. So those drivers that driving like hog and bad driving people, this is something we have to get. We have to take up the best system that like what the outer world have. The best, we have to emulate that.
One fruits and vegetables vendor shared his views.
Well, I feel a bit more safe because a lot of crime taking place these days, but I only hope the police and them do their job.
One woman who declined going on camera voiced her opinion. She said it's a good thing that the officers are patrolling the streets, but that a mobile unit needs to be erected in the area so that there can be a speedier response to any lawlessness taking place in Scarborough.
What they had done once, they had put a mobile station just across the road there. And you know that if something should happen around the vicinity, they are right there. But when they walk from here to KFC and walk back from KFC to Royal Castle, within that time, if something should happen within that what next? What time they're going to run from there to come up here?
She said without the true sense of policing, it doesn't make much of a difference. It was in early January 2014 that National Security Minister Gary Griffith visited Tobago to hold talks with members of the Tobago House of Assembly and other stakeholders on an improved security service for Tobago. At this meeting, Minister Griffith assured Chief Secretary of London that he will definitely collaborate with the THA to ensure that a tourism-oriented police service is developed in Tobago and that the officers frequently patrol hotspot areas throughout the island. This meeting comes after 50 SRP officers were placed into the service just before the Christmas holiday. There are also plans to train another batch of SRP officers and regular police officers in the coming months.
Yes, it is. It is known that there has been a reduction in serious crimes in Tobago for the last 6 months, but we do not stop from there. What we have looked at through the utilization of ComStat, computerized statistics, the law enforcement agencies will ascertain areas that seem to be the highest risk, and we will be utilizing the national security resources in those specific areas.
Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
This country's soca warrior princesses are gearing up for a semi-final encounter. That and more after the break. Good news as the Trinidad and Tobago under-20 women are in the final four of the CONCACAF Championship being contested in the Cayman Islands. Most football experts are pleasantly surprised with this fine showing, but as you will see in this Wayne Cunningham interview, which was done before the start of the tournament with technical director Anton Cornel, the script is going to plan. News for Sports at the CONCACAF Women's Under-20 Championship, courtesy the Ministry of Sport and the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago.
We're here with Technical Director of Trinidad and Tobago Football, Anton Cornel. He's here with the ladies in the Cayman Islands for the CONCACAF Under-20 Women's Championship. And Anton, tell us how things are going so far with this team.
Quite good. They went into an intense 4 weeks where we're trying to bridge the gap internationally. We are very much aware of our opponents. We got into a group that I think we are more than able to handle ourselves in this group. So a little bit of hard work, a little bit of luck on our side. I think we should come out not just prosperous, but we should qualify for the World Cup. We've got all the talent that is needed. The girls have been working hard. We just came out of our camp in Fort Lauderdale. I thought it was a very positive camp. We had a time for the girls to bind together as a group, not just on the field, but off the field. So now it only takes time now as we go into our first game.
All right, tell us what were the positives coming out of that camp in Fort Lauderdale from your standpoint?
I think we had the opportunity to see some new players. We had 5 players coming out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, some of them that we can use out of parents of Trinidadians. And I think once they get themselves their passports, they will be able to represent Trinidad and Tobago. So we had a chance to see some players. Also, we had a chance to get some players that did not play in the initial qualifying games to bond with the team that will be in the current squad. So that was a good time. And when we talk about bonding is, again, it's not just on the field. To bond, to know them as people, to know their personalities, to know what they like, what they don't like. So I think it was good for the girls to really come together. And it was in a little bit of adversity, just from the standpoint of weather, as we saw the weather in the US being very cold. And even in Florida, it was very cold. We had to train in a session where it was about 45 degrees. But the girls did a good job.
All right, tell us, what does this team need to advance to Canada 2014?
We need to score our chances. I know we'll create chances. We have a lot of speed. We've got speed on both sides of the field. We've got speed in the middle. They play with a lot of purpose. I know we will get behind the backs of nearly all the defenses. We just have to make sure we get there. We try to convert our chances, get at least a 40% level of conversion. We'd love to say 100%. It just doesn't happen at any level. But once that passion and desire is there, I think we will get the necessary results.
Now, with qualification for the semi-finals of the CONCACAF Under-20 Women's Championship, Trinidad and Tobago has grabbed the attention of footballing nations in the region. The other teams in the Final Four were expected to be there, and this qualification shows that our football fortunes are on the rise, a fact not missed by the big guns. Wayne Cunningham has more.
You've seen Trinidad and Tobago in this tournament. They have good strategy, good coaching. It's a complete team. They have a process that's been going since the World Cup in 2010 in Trinidad and Tobago, and it shows in their play.
Those sentiments expressed by Mexican coach Christopher Cuela were echoed by USA captain Kari Rocaro, who kept her cards close to the chest regarding the pending semi-final match with Trinidad and Tobago.
I mean, we haven't watched any film on them yet. We're still preparing. We've been working to get better every day. So I think we just have to go into it and focus on our strengths, and hopefully we'll qualify for the World Cup with a win tomorrow. I think we just have to play our style and play our game and relax and just remember it's just like any other game. It is very important, so we do need the result. But I think if we just go in and have a good speed of play and a good mentality, we'll be great.
TNT coach Isla Brown reiterated what qualification will mean for Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the women's game in the Caribbean.
I think it'll be huge. It'll be tremendous, not just for the country of itself, but the women's game. Not just in Trinidad, but I think throughout the Caribbean. It changes lives. It changes, hopefully, the way people look and deal with women playing the sport. For us, really, the mindset was coming in, winning the first two games, which will put us in a position to be in a position to qualify for the World Cup. And I think our headspace was that. We came and we did it. So now, we're working towards being one of those three teams going to the World Cup.
Despite the 3-0 loss to Mexico in the final group game, Coach Brown liked some of what she saw.
The score in the game, the game of itself for us was tremendous in terms of being a more disciplined team, playing a bit deeper, also getting attacks where we had chances to score. So it wasn't a situation where we played probably a little more defensive, but we also had opportunities to score, which was huge for us. So it has laid for us a good foundation to tackle the US in terms of the semi-final game.
Wayne Cunningham from Grand Cayman for News 4 Sports.
For the Carnival is on the other side of the break. Stay with us. The 2014 edition of Tribe Ice saw a crowd in excess of 3,000 patrons converging on the Jean-Pierre complex after weeks of anticipation by eager carnival enthusiasts, many of whom yearned for a taste of TNT Carnival.
Carnival Tribe has continued to offer patrons to both its fetes and its Carnival Masquerade experience a near impeccable level of service. It has stuck to offering a high level of exclusivity by providing patrons with a range of signature embellishments.
How are you?
I'm doing really, really good.
How are you enjoying Tribe Eyes?
I am having the time of my life right now.
Who are you here with tonight?
My friends Nicole and Candace.
How are you girls doing?
Great,
With music provided by top DJs, patrons continue to file into the venue after the midnight hour, settling in well with their coolers and swaying to the songs of Carnival. News 4 Nikolai Edwards filed this brief report.
As you can see, we're here in Tribe Eyes 2014. And it's raining, but that's not stopping people from having a good time. We're seeing ladies on coolers, we're seeing people breaking away, and it's truly the start of Carnival 2014.
Back on stage, Toronto-based singer, songwriter and producer Cohen Dubois performed and built a nice rapport with the audience. Then Lyrical had patrons lapping up his performances with his new hit song, The Liquor Conquer Me. Then came 5-Star Akil, so we asked how the transition has been from an on-air DJ to becoming a soca artist.
Boy, amazing, what's that? You don't know this feeling, but some people think it just happened. There's plenty of work behind it, and that whole transition is not an easy road. Some people think it's an easy road, but it's really not an easy road.
We even caught up with some persons of familiar faces who summed up their experience. News 4 Nikolai Edwards spoke to the Project Runway Season 9 winner, Miss Anya Ayangchi.
So how has Carnival 2014 been treating you thus far?
I mean, it has literally just begun with Tribe Eyes. It's the first, it's the introduction to Carnival, so I'm almost not ready. It's too soon, it's too soon.
I do. We know you as being a patriot. What does Carnival mean to you as a nationalism on the road?
I mean, to me, Carnival is like absolute liberation, freedom, like letting go, completely letting go. So it's an incredible experience.
And this councillor hung up her political robe and put on her party shoes.
Hey, look, Miss Khadija, Miss Amin.
Hi guys, are you all working or partying?
What are you doing?
Well, I am here to have a good time, enjoy the vibe.
Alright, that's nice. Tell me something about you enjoying the vibe right now.
Well, so far it's good. It's not the first Tribe Fete that I've been to. I'm not a party goer per se, but the vibe's nice. I have some friends who play with Tribe, so they come to many of the Tribe events, so I'm just here with them, chilling out a little bit.
We even stumbled on some rather strange things and people too. Now listen carefully to this patron.
You ever heard the Vibes River? Vibes River. You ever heard the Vibes River? It overflowed up. We are breaking the banks of the Vibes River, dog.
Okay then. As the sky slowly changed from the black of night to the blue of the early morning, partygoers could not get enough of the artists and kept calling for more. When patrons began filing out of the venue around 7 a.m., the tired faces only had good things to say about the event, which has earned its place on the Carnival calendar. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Vibes River Overflow, that's a new one. Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services and the Ministry of Communications. I am Gregory McBurney. Thank you for joining us.